So by now you're probably starting to get a little confused. What's he talking about when he talks about classes, objects, blueprints? This will, I promise, become a lot clearer the further along we get in this video. So we're going to make a blueprint class in a moment, but before we do that, let's zoom out. I'm going to select this floor tile and I'm going to get rid of it. Now what I want my class floor tile to do is to create new floor tiles. So let me drag this in and drop that into my world. Now I can see it's in this level because if we look up here in the world outliner that shows all the objects, we can see it says floor tile. But that doesn't exist anywhere. Why can't we see it? Well, the floor tile at the moment is just a piece of code that creates a variable called x and sets it to 100. It doesn't make any floors, it doesn't make any shapes, it doesn't have any physical presence. So let's delete that for the time being by pressing delete. We're going to make a blueprint class. Now this is something that's specific to Unreal, although other development kits have similar functionality. And I'm going to make a blueprint class of my C++ class. This means that any code in my C++ class will also exist in my blueprint class. So let's right click on there, create a blueprint class based on floor tile. And I'm going to call this BP underscore floor tile. You'll notice this is still a class, even though it's a blueprint class, so that still starts with a capital letter. Good naming conventions are really helpful when we're working on programming. So let's create the blueprint class. This will open up a new editor, not Visual Studio, not what you've been seeing before. And the reason we're going to make a blueprint class is Unreal makes it very easy to add things to our class. Add what you may think of as physical things, things we can see, things we can interact with. And we do this by clicking Add Component. The first component we're going to add is a static mesh. A static mesh is a 3D model made up of polygons. And once we've added a static mesh, we can go over here. We should see this new option has appeared underneath the details of blueprint floor tile. And I'm going to click on here. I'd like to find the cube mesh. You can scroll through them. I'm just going to type in cube there. And I'm going to choose the shape cube. So what you should see now is we've got a cube. And we're going to assign a material to this to make it look more like it's the floor. So just double click on that and you'll see yet another option appearing here in our details where we can set the properties of this class. And I'm going to choose one of the brick textures. All of the meshes, materials, assets that I'm using here are those that come with Unreal Editor, the starter content. So I can fly around this just like my level, and I've made a brick. This is going to be my floor tile. So let me just click down the viewport here, close down the viewport, sorry, compile, save, and shut that down. So I've now got a new type of class. I've got a blueprint class, and that's got this cube attached to it. So when I drag this in, unlike before, when I just dragged in my C++ class, we can actually see it. It's got this cube attached. Every time this class comes into being, it makes a cube. And this is an object of the class. The class, the instructions of what to do exist down here in the content browser. Up here in the world outliner, you'll see there is now BP floor tile. This is one object of the class. And this becomes really a lot easier to understand when I drag in more. Let's put in here, we've got 3 blueprint floor tiles. And these, blueprint floor tile 2, blueprint floor tile 3, are all objects of this blueprint floor tile class. You'll notice there is still only one class down here, but 3 copies of it that we've put into our level. And that's important. That's probably the best way to understand how classes are. The class is the instructions of how to make the objects, and we can have lots of objects from a single class. The final thing I want to show you in this video is actually how to edit our world, which we can see in the center here. Now, you may or may not have experienced this before, but trying to line things up in 3D from a single point of view is a bit tricky. Here's me trying to move these around. I'm trying to get them in a nice straight line with no gaps. I'm going to come up here to my world outliner and choose my player start. And I'm going to try and move it to just above all my bricks so that I start above them. Let's see how good a job I've done of lining these up. Not too great. I could have done worse, but I've made some rather haphazard steps here. What we can do with this, heading escape there to exit, I can choose this option up here. This will give me 4 different points of view. Let's focus on the player initially. I've got a point of view from the left here, from the front over here, and from the top here. And I can navigate all of these just as I could in my perspective view. Or I can decide just to look. Here I'm looking at the left, so I'm going to get my player start. I'm going to move him just above all the tiles, so I start above them and try and line them up on the centre. Let's have a look at the front view. Okay, I've done a pretty good job. They're pretty central there. And let's have a look at the top view. Okay, so I've lined that up over the central tile, but you'll notice my tiles are still all lopsided. So let's go into here. I'm going to select this tile. I'm going to line that up. Line this one up. So they all look like they're lined up now. And let's have a look from the final point of view. Right, so they're all lined up from 3 different perspectives. So if I go back to my main perspective here, they look a lot more lined up than they did before. So let's play it, have a look from actually inside the game. Fantastic, I managed to make a nice line. So that is this little area of floor here is 3 objects, all of which have been created using this single class over here, BP floor tile. I'm going to show you how we can duplicate these within Unreal Editor. If I hold down Alt when I drag my bricks around, it will actually make copies. Release Alt, hold it down again, make another copy. So you can now see over here in my list of objects, I've got BP floor tiles 1 through 5. I'm going to try and make 9 copies here to make myself a nice little area of floor. Select it, press Alt, drag it to duplicate, release everything, press Alt, drag it to duplicate, release everything, and one final time. Let's play this. There we go. I'm starting to build up a nice brick floor that's currently made from 9 copies of the floor tile. If you go back to the unit content available to you, you should find some challenges based on what you've learnt. I hope that's proved helpful. You should now be clear on how to initiate your first project, how to create a new level, how to create a C++ object, how to create a C++ class, how to create a blueprint class, and how to use these to create different objects in your game world.